So we've pinned our pattern in place over top of our tracing, our template. And I'm going to take my lace. Now you're going to play with your lace till you have where you would like. You don't want to end up having like a big section of all of these pieces. See what I mean? Like you want to have more of the open swirly part. So you can move your lace around and find as much pattern as you would like to have on it. And just because I decide where I want to have these parts on here doesn't mean I have to leave these where they are. I can move them each time. So I wouldn't want this to take that whole section up in the middle. So I'm liking that, I think. Yeah, I think I like that. So see what I've done is there's some of the open spaces in a lot of the area. That's what I want. These ones here, when you're stippling on top of them, you're really going to find that you have to work a little harder on it. But if you've got too much paint on your brush, it makes big gobs. So we're going to take our dome stippler, and I'm going to pick up, it doesn't matter which one. So say I start with the blue ice, and I really work it in on my palette. And I'm going to come in here and tap it into a few places. It really doesn't matter which one I start with. If I wanted to move the lace around, I could do each section one at a time. But I'm okay with the way they are. But you have to tap it in on the palette. And the reason I'd rather do it like this all over the place right now is so that when I get to wipe my brush out and go to the next color, I don't have to, by the time I go back to the third one, if I'm doing it, it's going to end up muddy. So I take that, tap it in on the palette so that it's not big gobs. And I am not pressing hard. That's another thing that I noticed, that some of the girls were pressing a little hard and they overworked them. So you want to kind of scuff off on an old towel. I've got an old towel. I'm going to now pick up the metallic teal, work that in, and I'll come in and I'll fill in on my other sections. And I'm going to be using the mix. Now this is 2 parts champagne gold, 1 part peacock teal. And I'm going to be taking, see, now I've talked and I didn't pounce on the palette, so I have a feeling I might have a big thick section there. And if you do get a big thick section, there is a way to take care of it. You can go back after when it's dry and tap, put lace over top again and tap a little bit of black, so soft black, just with a small brush, and then you can kind of calm down that section that you overdid and put a little bit of color back in. So I'm just kind of filling in the empty holes. Some I'm overlapping the teal over the blue. Works good. Now I'm going to scuff off my brush. If you'd rather, and you have lots of dome stipplers, you can switch and use a different one for each color too. So now I'm going to take the light color. And this one's really going to just kind of soften everything and add a glimmer to it. So right now I'll just lift it and show you what I've got. See, that's the spot that I was talking about where I said I was pretty sure I had gone a little heavy. I didn't tap on here enough first. Well, I didn't tap at all. So now I'll just come in here and I'm going to show you just in a second the difference that makes. See how it softens and it adds a real pretty shimmer to it. And it's just loosely tapped over everywhere. It doesn't have to be completely solid, and you really do want to pay attention to what you're doing. You should. But you see that I'm just holding the brush. I'm not pressing hard. That's really important. And you lift your lace and you have a peek and see what you want to do. So this one here is the one that I'm talking about, that I go back afterwards and I'll do a little bit of, I'll put a little bit of black there. And you just keep lifting your lace and checking to see what you've got or where you might want a little bit more of whatever color. I think I wanted a bit more teal up in this one up here, and blue. So that's what you're going to do, and then we take the template off. Alrighty. We're going to start with a 1/4 or number 8 flat shader, and I'm going to base coat in a section. You want to work while your section's still wet. So I'm going to give my brush a quick wipe, pick up the Indian turquoise and apply it along the top. I'll just give my brush a wipe and nice and softly, don't press hard, gently blend to fade the two colors together. No scrubbing really hard. If we were scrubbing hard, it's going to pull the color back out again and pull our dark from underneath. And sometimes we want that look, but today is not that day. So I'll do it again. And you can probably, you want to work while it's wet, and I don't see why you can't at least do 2 sections at a time. You're not concerned with a line between them. Those go back on afterwards, whether you're using the marker to put them on or we paint them on with a liner, but they will be separated. So you're not concerned about if I went right over here with that. That's what I'm meaning. So nice and soft. Don't be cheap with your paint unless we're running out. I'm applying, I gave my brush a wipe off so that my brush was semi-clean for that. And then nice and soft, just gently work my way down. So it goes from light to dark. If it fades in too much for your liking, some people wanted it to be really strong. Once it's dry, you can redo it again if you feel, but I'm all good with the way it is. So we will continue that for all of these sections, and then we'll have another demo. So we're going to take primary blue and base coat the top sections. You can do a couple at a time easily because they're so small. They'll stay wet.
Did you want to turn off the air conditioner?
Thank you. All right, you're gonna base coat these sections with the primary blue. And again, it's not a big panic if you see how like this maybe didn't touch exactly to the edge. That isn't going to be an issue. There's lines put between everything, so that's going to get separated out afterwards. So this is a quite small section. I'm just going to pick up on the corner of the dirty brush some of the ocean blue and just softly blend along the top. You're not looking to have too much of a section of the lighter because it's going to overpower it. Nice and soft. So that's how we're going to do the top section. So we're going to take ocean, we're going to take ocean blue, and we're putting our checkers in the second section in. So you can go, I'm taking the width of my number 8 or 1/4, and I just put one there, skip the size of a brush, and put another one. And you can work your way all the way along doing that. And then afterwards we come back and we do the in-between sections. But you can also, so some on the corners are going to be bigger than the others. You can do up, down, which I think is easier for a lot of people, being concerned about whether they're the right space apart. So if I have this guy on the bottom, then I would come and do another one up top. Move down, do the bottom. If you don't have enough paint in, you see how I'm getting the ridges shown from my fabric grain.
Okay.
And then I'll move my way along. So you go all the way around and do these ones as they are in your photo, the second row in. So I'm going to shade with the So Soft Lamp Black. I'm going to use about a 3/8 or a number 10. Now you can double load with the black ice and the So Soft Lamp Black if you'd rather do a blend opposed to shading. But I'm just side loading, blending. I shade his head. I'm going to shade down his back. And I'm making his sections appear by shading them off like that. Nice and soft. All we want to do is make his body appear that it rounds. So by shading like that, it's going to give that appearance. I'll shade down his belly as well, and the front of his bottom section. Now the same thing, you can shade using your brush and side load shade on that black section, or I can take and side load, just pick up a little bit on the corner of my lunar blender, scuff it off a bit, and you see how I can do my shading. And all we want to do is kind of just give a little bit of a dark look. I can shade to separate the wings. Do you see how it's more like a dry brush scuffing that we're doing here? And you can, if you want to shade in around the edges of your lace work, and that just kind of strengthens it up. And I'll shade to separate between my two wings. Nothing really, really bold. We're not looking for really bold. I can shade here. And here. That's going to shade to separate our guy. We're going to take our liner and we're going to add, I can take some of the blue ice and add a couple of fine lines on his bottom section and a couple of teal lines. And then I'm going to use my stylus and I'm going to do some dots up in his body section. So I'll just do some dots with the random colors. So we've got the I just dotted some teal. I'll dot a bit of blue ice. And then I'll dot with a little bit of our champagne peacock mix. So we've got those little dots, and you can use either your liner and the So Soft, or you can use the chisel of the brush, and we'll just put some black lines, and I'll do a few thin black lines throughout down here as well. The head doesn't really get anything on it. I'm going to take my champagne mix. I did those ahead of time up there, but we're going to do with the champagne mix. And I'm going to pull in the antennas. Now, of course, when you're pulling in your antennas, one is going to come in front of the head, pardon me, and one will start here because it's behind. So just with your liner, nice fine liner, pull those in. You can use your liner to do some detail work on here. So we're going to do some little comma strokes in the black. And it's just a couple of commas press. And that's with my lamp black. So we do those in these sections here. I haven't lined these ones yet. To separate them. You can use the marker if you prefer. We have the fabric markers. You can use those to do your separating and outlining. And I would line between these or with my paint, either one. This defines all of our edges. It gets a nice crispness to it. So you go through and you outline everything, whether you're using the fabric paint markers. This is a PBO, but you can use fabric paint markers. You can use your liner and your So Soft paint, whatever you'd prefer. You don't need to go out and get a marker if you don't have one. We call it our cheater. It gives you nice crisp lines when you're separating things like these. And you can even do your little dots in those if you want, or you can be using, so I can use my marker, or I can use the paint. Doesn't matter. So I would use like a small round. If I'm going to do them in paint. So it's and I'll just put those there, and we're going to go through and we'll add some turquoise dots. Just some nice commas. Depends how heavy, thick it is on the point. So we get those in there. And you'll see that I'm going to take my mix and my liner. I've done my black outlining. I'm going to take a nice fine line with my liner now. And look at how pretty that pops up. It's really nice and pretty. It defines all of these, but it's not overpowering. It's delicate looking. So it just goes on top of that black line, but it's very, very pretty. So I didn't put the black line here to separate an outline. And then I'll take my fine line of the, and this is the gold mix. It looks quite gold there, but it's got that teal in there. It's very, very pretty. It's very soft and delicate. So we're gonna, after I've got all my little dots and colors around, now I'm gonna go to my leaves. I'm gonna load my 1/4 lunar blender in the mix, which is my champagne gold peacock pearl. Ratios listed in our pattern. So with our brush up on the chisel, the outer edge, with your brush standing upright, just scratch inwards. Your whole thing is to leave the inside section basically with our dark. So my brush is up on the tip, scratch inwards. You need to have paint on your brush. This side, scratch inward. And so we do all of our leaves. In the champagne mix. Brush upwards, and we're going to put a vein down the middle, just with the flat of the brush, or I can use my liner or the flat of a regular brush. And I'll put in my stem. And I'd like to have a couple of stems in here. We've got leaves here. So if I have leaves that are on top of each other, this one would be classed as my leaf from underneath. I would do him first. Nice leaf, brush up on the chisel. You're just wanting to scratch it inwards. And again here, brush up. We're up on the tip of the brush. And the brush is turned on its chisel so it's angled towards there. And we've got another little leaf tucked in here. And I've got stem here. I'm going to just put another little bit of a leaf here. Add one. So there, we've got our little group of leaves. Split this leaf in half, so I'll just pull more in here. All right, so now for the flowers, I'm going to take the same brush upright, and we're going to start with the flowers that are blue in the background. So with the blue ice, brush up on the chisel. These are the metallics. At the end, just scratching inwards. And then we've got and there's another blue one up here. if you do a different guy, the blue ones are in the background, okay? But if you do one that, you know, you think, oh, he wasn't supposed to be that color, it's not a big deal. Nobody's going to know. You'll always point it out. You'll always say, oh, that one was supposed to be. So I'm going to mix a little bit of pearl white into the blue ice, and that'll be my next layer of flowers. Brush up on the tip. So they're getting a little lighter as we go in. I don't know how I traced this guy, but he's weird. So your petals pull inwards. We're going to be sewing seed beads into here afterwards. So we work all those in. And I'm going to do this one down here too. Now all I do is pick up the white pearl by itself on the dirty brush. So it's going to end up getting a little bit of a blue tint in there, edge of the petals, and then you just scratch inwards. I think that petal belonged to him, so I'll put him back. Out here. Every now and then you press a little hard, you're going to get some of that blue pulling from inside your brush because it's a dirty brush, which is perfect. You never want all your flowers to be the very same. And I'll come down here and catch this last little guy. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of shading. So it's the same way. I'm just taking a little bit of the lamp black regular paint, and I'm just going to come along and just define between my petals. Do you see how if a petal is over top of another, if we just scratch a little of the black, and I'm just dry brush scratching it. I just pick up a little on the edge of the brush. I don't want too much under the leaves. So it'll put that leaf on top of the other one. If a leaf's on a flower. But it begins to define. Now you can shade them with a side load float if you prefer to. And so we come through and we just separate and lift our flowers off of each other. So we can define the petals. And we're going to stitch the little seed beads in the centers of them. If you're not going to be doing that, then I would dot with my stylus to create some raised centers. So if you're not putting the seed beads, if you're not going to stitch the little multicolored blue seed beads in there, then take your stylus and dot in the center. Probably the pearl white would be pretty because that would pop up. So, but that's totally optional. I like the seed beads. I love adding another little bit of dimension. I'm going to put a couple of rhinestones on here where I've got the turquoise dots. Again, that's optional. You don't have to do that. But it just adds that extra little bit. That's the same thing when I add I've got black ice. I'm going to brush a coat of black ice, Glamour Dust paint, over top of this. Now it dries clear and leaves you a little sparkle. I'm still going to see my colored dots, but I'm going to have a little black shimmer show up on here. And it's very pretty. It's very soft, very pretty. When you make sure you shake your Glamour Dust paints very well, and I like to put an alley or a marble inside of them so that it keeps them able to be shook very well. It separates them up nicely for you. Same thing with metallic paints. And I'm going to take my mix and I'm going to add some little feet so that we'll let him stand on the bunch of flowers. And he's going to have another foot coming from behind. Now I also, my little black lines aren't showing as well, but I will also stitch a little black bow on his neck, which I didn't have on mine for my finishing picture. But as this shimmer dries, it's going to dry down, and you'll see everything, your colors from underneath come through more. The same thing with the purple, purple. There's no purple. I am going to do this in purple. The same thing with the turquoise sparkle. I put that over top of this row, and when that dries, it just pops right up. It's beautiful. Has that beautiful little shimmer. Right now you see nothing when I'm putting it on, but when it dries, it's visible and it's very pretty. Some people like a lot of it. We're also going to add our dots. So I'm just going to do a couple here so you can see. I go all the way around with a large stylus and just do a row all the way. So I would do the whole thing all the way around with these. And you have your photo to refer to. Once I've done that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put a second layer. So do you see how I'm between and up a bit? Between the two and up a bit. So this begins, so I go all the way around with that, and then again, between and up a bit. So I'm going to work my way all the way around, creating my pattern. And then I actually like to switch and go to a bit smaller, and I'm going to go with the turquoise. And you can, some people would like to make different patterns. You see how I can take here and I can do 2 and then 1. And so what I'm doing is going 2 from my outer guy, 2 from my outer guy. I don't know what I did on the other one, but this is pretty. And so it's all the way around. So it ends up coming out like a 2, 1 down here. 1, 2, 1 down here. And so it would be a 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So it comes out like a little starburst. It's totally up to you. Some people want to keep them tight, some want them expanded. It doesn't matter. And then afterwards you can come back. I take my turquoise sparkle, just the sparkle. I'm not putting any paint underneath this. And when these dry, you just see the sparkle. They're beautiful. Whoops, I just dipped into the wrong paint. So we just want the sparkle in between these pieces. And you can add more glitz and glam, whatever you want to your piece. It's pretty cute. All right, so that's basically that. I'm going to add, I think I'm going to make these a little wider. Let's go for a little wider. You'll see what I mean here. What's these you're saying, huh? I'm going to take the So Soft Black and the chisel of my brush, and I want these black lines to be a little more defined on his body section. I like that better. There. Yeah, I like that. So, and it's just all of these little pieces get your glitter. All right? Okay. I hope you enjoyed painting this pillow. Take care. Till next time.